Okay, what's the story, guys? And welcome to a brand new episode of Energized. Today we have a very special guest on the show.
We have Ipswich and Charlton, and most importantly, Irish legend, Matt Rees, Holland. Matt, how's it going?
Yeah, pretty good, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's a bit of a strange old world we're living in at the moment, and getting by. Hope everyone's keeping safe and well.
Yeah, same to yourself, Matt. It's a crazy world that we're living in at the moment, and people are missing the football, Matt, aren't they? They're not getting their fix. You know what I mean?
You're not kidding. We're all missing our football. I'm used to sort of going to games midweek, weekends, and the fact that there's nothing to watch at the moment. Regurgitating old stuff, trying to sort of watch as much as I possibly can on Sky, some of the old Premier League years and stuff. But even so, it's hard going without any live football at the moment.
Yeah, especially when you know the results. It's a bit shit, isn't it? You're
that's
like,
true.
Here comes the goal.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I mean, even when you know the results and you watch it, it's hard to watch a game again, isn't it? Even when you know the results. So yeah, that's pretty tough.
It is. But Matt, obviously you do a lot of punditry as well. How are you keeping stimulated as well?
I'm doing as many podcasts as I possibly can, guys. No, I'm joking. I am doing a few bits and pieces. I'm able to work from home. I've got a microphone and stuff set up here. So I've done TalkSport a couple of times from here. The Premier League, who I work for as well, they set up a thing called Cloudcast, and they're putting out a daily show, half an hour daily show every day as well. So I've got one of those lined up on Thursday, talking about captains. So that should be good fun as well. So I'm doing a few bits and pieces. My missus is keeping me busy. All the jobs, the gardens never look so tidy and nice. Yeah. And mucking out her horses and stuff. So I'm managing to keep busy.
Yeah, you look like you have a bit of a tan as well. So you must be there out a long while.
To be honest, it's a little bit burnt actually. It was quite warm Sunday, and I was out in the garden with the boys playing football actually.
That's great.
And yeah, got a bit burnt.
How many boys do you have?
Got 2 boys.
Yeah, it's crazy that like everything's cancelled. Weddings, like people can't attend funerals. I have a little 9-month-old at home. Like I was supposed to have a christening, can't have that. You know what I mean? Like my mum's birthday was the other day, and like you know what I mean. Like I had to like go down and like wave to her. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
It is. If you're born in April, it's a bit of a nightmare. My birthday's on Saturday, so my missus always said, "Well, I haven't bought you anything." I said, "No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We'll do something afterwards when we're able to get out of this lockdown." But yeah, if you're born in April, it's been a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, I know what you're fishing for, Matt. Okay, we'll join you for a Zoom call and have a beer with you. Don't worry about it.
Sounds good. We'll have a virtual beer.
Brilliant.
Yeah, if you could invite one more person into that for a beer, who would you invite in?
One more here.
Yeah.
Oh, good question. That's somebody has to try and make me laugh, wouldn't it? Crikey. Try and make it entertaining. Who could we bring in? Good question. We'll come back to it.
We'll come back to that. But,
all right, I'll ask you at the very end.
Perfect.
Yeah. Matt, first of all, it's been announced by the FAI that the new manager, Stephen Kenny, is after taking over from Mick McCarthy. What was meant to happen was Stephen Kenny was meant to take over after the Euros, or if Ireland qualified or not. Mick McCarthy didn't get to see out the job. What are your sort of thoughts on this? Because obviously Mick McCarthy was your previous manager.
Yeah, and I love Mick as well. Obviously, known Mick a long time, and even after the Ireland stuff, he was manager at Ipswich for 6 years as well. So quite recently, I've been to Ipswich a few times and seen him there as well. So yeah, it's a shame really what's happened and how it's panned out, because I think he probably deserved the opportunity to see the job through. I personally would like to have seen him, keep the job for the playoffs and obviously if it went well then for the Euros next year as well. But that's not to be. I think he's sort of decided himself that his contract's up. He's going to walk away from it. But I personally would have liked him to have seen the job through, really. I'm a massive fan of Mick. He's the most honest, loyal manager that you could ask for. So it's a real shame that it's ended this way.
Yeah, I actually thought the FAI were going to... I know they... First of all, I don't think they should have said Stephen was going to take over. I just don't think that's how you run a club, being like, all right, the next manager is going to come in. But
no, it was a strange one at the time, wasn't it? Because what if Mick had qualified, the Euros had taken place this year, he'd done brilliantly.
Yeah. Was
it then goodbye, Mick? You've done superbly, but actually you're still going. So it did seem strange to make that announcement as early as they did.
Yeah,
it was almost like an interim manager job, really, except like a very, very long one. You know, when someone sort of like takes over for, you know, when someone gets sacked and like the assistant takes over for a while. But it was weirdly being that the interim manager had a better CV than the new manager coming in.
And actually, you know, you say interim manager, it was only 10 games, so it's quite a short tenure as well, really, in that respect. I know time-wise, it seems a long time, but actually, I think he was only in charge of 10 matches, and he only lost one of the 10 as well. So it wasn't like he'd done a bad job either.
I also think it's strange that the qualification period isn't over. So, like, he has those players playing a specific way. They have played Slovakia, and then whoever else wins the other semi-final, I think it's between Northern Ireland and Wales, is it?
Bosnia, isn't it?
Bosnia, sorry. Yeah. And then, like, the winner has to play up. But now Stephen Kenny's first game in charge is going to be against Slovakia. And it's actually not really a great place to start, because, like, if you lose that game, then people are automatically going to be against him. And he doesn't have the reputation of international management or managing, like, Premier League players.
Yes, it is a tough one. What I would say is, though, the decision's been made, and you know, there's nothing we're going to do to change that now. So everyone should get behind Stephen and his team, really. You know, obviously he's got some good guys alongside him as well, Damien and Keith Andrews as well. So we need to get behind him and his team, really, and try and focus on that game, because the most important thing is trying to qualify for the Euros, and obviously home games as well in Dublin. It'll be something special.
I know, it'd be amazing. What do you think Stephen's going to bring to the team as well now, Matt? Because obviously he's had the under-21s. Do you think he's actually going to move up some of the players, or do you think he's going to stick with the squad that Mick has been staying loyal to?
It'd be interesting. I think naturally when a new man comes in, they want to do things slightly differently to the predecessor. You know, they have their own ideas about how they want to play. They have their own preconceived ideas about individuals as well and what type of players they are. So I think it's natural that he'll come in and make some changes. How big those changes are, it'd be interesting to see. But you know, he'll obviously rely heavily on his staff as well, and I'm sure he would be conversing with Mick, you know, readily as well about getting his opinions on individuals and players. So, but there's naturally going to be one or two changes, and look, there might be one or two of the younger ones who get an opportunity. It'd be interesting to see, though.
Yeah. What sort of changes would you make? Just like, because obviously you're always keeping an eye on it.
What would I do? I think it's difficult. I mean, obviously, personnel wise, you know, the group isn't as big as we perhaps like it to be. Yeah. I think goals has been the major problem, hasn't it, over the last couple of years? And that's the big thing now. I think there are one or two really good young ones coming through. Now, Aaron Connolly, Adam Eder, Troy Parrott. There's one or two younger ones, not quite ready yet, maybe. You know, Mick said he wasn't quite ready, Troy Parrott, for instance. But that's been the biggest area of concern, really. And if we can try and sort that out, that'd be better. Yeah.
Would you like to play with two up front, or would you like the three?
Difficult, really. I think it all depends on who you're coming up against and how the opposition play. You know, I think when you've got a team that's very strong in midfield, I think it's dangerous to play with just two central midfield players. Yeah. Because I think the quality at international level is such that, you know, you'd have to be a little bit careful about playing two up top and being a little bit exposed in midfield. And it depends on who your two are in the centre of the pitch as well. But I think it's horses for courses, really, and depends on who you're coming up against.
Yeah, we're lucky we have a very solid defence as well.
Yeah, I mean, actually, personnel-wise, and you look at it, a lot of the players suit a back three. It'd be interesting to see whether you know, Stephen Kenny goes that way or not. But a lot of the lads play a back three at club level. So who knows?
And let's see what he does with. Let's see what he does with Seamus Coleman and Matt Doherty as well.
That's actually what I was going to say, Barry. I was like, what do you do there? Because obviously Seamus Coleman's the captain, but like Matt Doherty at club level arguably might be Ireland's best player.
Yeah, I think in a back three you could play them both, because I think Seamus has done it for Everton actually and played in almost coming into a back three position really at times. So he could easily play in that role, and it might actually suit him as well. The energy that Matt's got is frightening. You know, the way he bursts forward, and he's, you know, and when goals are an issue, as I said they have been.
He's good for a goal.
Well, he's good for a goal, but you know, even just by some of the runs that he makes, he creates opportunities for others as well. So I'd like him to play. it's just fitting him in really. He's used to playing in the back three and given that license to get forward. When he plays in the back four, it's slightly different, a bit more defensive responsibility and less chance to get forward. But when he plays, he is good for a goal.
Yeah.
So who would you pair alongside? Obviously, John Egan's been incredible this year, Coleman, and then who would you have as your third centre half? Kieran Clark?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously Shane Duffy as well.
Shane Duffy.
He's
been out of favour though at Brighton at the moment.
He has been out of favour at Brighton. I think that's more a case really of the way that Brighton play. He's been a little bit of a victim of that because Graham Potter wants his size to be able to, really comfortable at the back on the ball. And Adam Webster's someone who is in that type of player as well at the back for Brighton. And he's gone with him more readily than Shane, but he's never let Ireland down. And
no, definitely not.
And he's come up with some big goals as well. So I think it'd be hard for him to be left out.
Yeah, he's a weapon. He's a weapon in the box as well for corners and throw-ins. If he had
exactly.
Rory Delat back.
Well, that'd be nice. But he is unbelievable in both boxes, and so I think that he'd be important for us still.
And then I have to say, Enda Stevens has been an absolute revelation this year at Sheffield United. Like, what a player! I wasn't expecting. Like, he's knocked on the door for team of the season this year.
Yeah, he's been excellent, really excellent. I was at Sheffield. I'm trying to think of the game it was now, but he scored an absolute rocket up at Sheffield just a few weeks back, and he got taken off at half time. Actually, picked up an injury. But he's someone who's really impressed me. In fairness, Sheffield United have been excellent, haven't they? The way that they've attacked the Premier League this season, I think everyone has sort of been a bit surprised by it, really, and no one perhaps anticipated how good they were gonna be. But they've risen to the challenge, and he's one of those players that's really stood out.
Hard work and dedication, that's what they're putting in. But also, Matt, the midfield as well. What do you sort of make of the midfield, and who do you think Stephen will go with as well there? Because if you might play a 3, you might play a 2.
It will be interesting to see which way he goes. I mean, I like Conor Hourihane. I think he's a player again. Someone who gets a goal from midfield. He's someone that will make those runs forward. I do like him, and I think he's been a little bit hard done by at Villa as well. Not played as much as he perhaps should have done at times this season. I'm looking at Villa and the position that they're in, and him and Jack Grealish have got a really good relationship as well. Yeah, he's. I think they get on quite well off the field, and you can tell that there's a good relationship on the pitch as well with those two. So I'm surprised that he hasn't played and featured more for Villa. Jeff Hendricks obviously got good energy and someone who does again likes to get in the box at times. I don't know. I mean, look, that's obviously Stephen Kenny's decision, and it'd be interesting to see which way he goes. But I think Connor's someone who perhaps deserves more of a chance. Yeah,
well, you won't be looking at your phone waiting for a call, no?
I think I'm a bit too old for that.
Glenn, we'll get back.
If he'd have seen me in the garden the other day, he definitely wouldn't be calling me. No, I wasn't.
Maybe cut the grass on the pitch.
Yeah, I could cut the grass. I could do that. I could put the corner flags out and get them out back afterwards as well. Maybe. New ground.
For me, sometimes I look at a midfield and just go, it's like, you don't want to be too harsh, but like it is a bit more standard. When you look at our defence, you're like, that's a very good defence. Like that's like the international level. And then the midfield looks a bit standard. And then like, I can't always just help but think, imagine we had Grealish and Rice. It'd be a different gravy. You know what I mean? But like, it doesn't always go that way for you. You know what I mean? You can't always, ifs and buts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, it's incredible to see how far they've kicked on.
Yeah, I mean they're both really good players. I don't think Declan's played as well this season as he did the previous year.
No.
I think he's a terrifically talented player, and he's someone that's going to go to the top. He will leave West Ham, and so will Jack Grealish. I think he'll leave Villa as well in the summer. Whether Declan Rice stays at West Ham another year or two, maybe. But Jack Grealish is getting to an age now where you feel as though he's ready to kick on. I mean, he's really impressed everybody, I think, this season.
He needs to keep the head level, though. He seems off the field. He seems a bit of a messer now.
Well,
to say the least.
He had those incident, didn't he? Just a week ago, 10 days ago, whatever it was, while on lockdown. So yeah, he needs to be obviously be wary of that, and particularly if you're going to play. Man United have obviously been heavily linked with him. If you're going to play at a club like that, then the intensity and scrutiny on you is absolutely immense. So you've got to be very careful about how you conduct yourself off the field as well.
Do you think some teams would not be interested now, or do you think they'll just overlook that and be like, do you know what, he's actually that good? We can fix him. You know what I mean?
I think you'd not be hesitant, but I think it would play on your mind as a manager.
Definitely.
You'd look into it. I mean, when managers sign players, one of the first things they do is they phone around and say, "What's he like?" Because everyone can see what he's like as a player and what he does on the pitch. What's he like off the field? Is he going to disrupt things? Is he going to be a problem? And that sort of stuff. So that's one of the first things that a manager does really when he's looking to sign someone. Tries to find out a bit of background about.
Well, the thing is, he is captain as well.
He is captain, and actually, I think he looks like he's matured a lot in the last couple of years. He does appear that way. He's made a mistake, and he's held his hands up. He knows he was wrong, but it is something that you would think about as a manager. But at the same time, you also look at it and say, is he going to improve us on the pitch? And he will improve a lot of teams on the pitch.
Yeah. I think he's actually just seems to be a dangerous person with downtime. Because when he has a game in week in, week out, he's never in trouble. But like, give him 2 or 3 weeks off, and then next thing you know, he's in the paper.
Yeah, well, don't let him have a summer then. Don't let him have a summer off.
Yeah.
This year might be different, mightn't it? Because he might be playing June and July, and we might be back. The season might start again in August, and so he hasn't got a break. This is his break now, and maybe he's learned. So we'll see.
We will see.
Absolutely.
But Matt, we obviously want to get into your footballing career as well, because it says here that you originally started with Arsenal. Is that correct?
I was a kid, yeah. I actually started with Southampton's Centre of Excellence, and I was
what age was
with
that?
them. I was about, I'm trying to think. I moved down to London when I was about 9, 10, about 10 years of age, and then I spent a year or two training with them, and then Arsenal watched me play, and I think like representative football, and sort of spoke to my dad on the sideline, asked me to go train with them. I was with them for a couple of years, and then at 14 was told thanks but no thanks.
Were you playing midfield at this time as well?
Yeah. I was always central midfield. I mean, I played at the back and different positions occasionally, but ultimately my position was central midfield. Yeah. And they said thanks but no thanks. I mean, it said I was too small. It's a nice way of telling a 14-year-old you're not quite good enough. So that was what happened then, and then went back to playing sort of county football and local football, and then it was actually Frank Lampard Senior who was watching me. So Frank Lampard's dad was on the touchline one game and invited me to West Ham to go and train, and went to West Ham, played a couple of games in the youth team when I was about 14, 15. Yeah. And that was it. Ended up signing for West Ham at my youth team at West Ham from 16. So yeah, it was Frank Lampard's dad actually who was the first one to spot me.
They have a great academy. What other players were there at the time?
Well, my actual year, the only one really Danny Williamson. Do you remember Danny Williamson? He played for Everton as well. I think he signed for sort of $1.5 million for Everton from West Ham. Darren Curry came through at that particular time. But if we're going a little bit sort of, because there was a group of lads coming through together. So there's Michael Carrick, Joe Cole, Rio Ferdinand, Frank Lampard. They were all coming through under the radar really. Sort of, I was probably about 3 or 4 years older than them. But there was always this talk about that Rio's coming through, Joe Cole. They've got these lads who are going to be first-team footballers very soon. So we were well aware that there was a good group, 3 or 4 years younger than where we were at, that people were talking about from an early age.
Yeah, great players.
Matt, you played a lot of games for Ipswich and a lot of games for Charlton. Do you have a preference over the two clubs?
I think that's putting me right on the spot, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you know, like we have to ask the hard questions here. You know what I mean? Because which is your favourite kid?
I mean, which one's my favourite kid? That's a hard one. I mean, I had 6 years at both, and had some great times at both as well. I was fortunate enough that I was captain for both of them in the Premier League. Finished 5th with Ipswich, finished 7th with Charlton. Actually, with Charlton, we were sort of pushing for Champions League football. Scott Parker went in the January. He went to Chelsea. But that season, we were pushing hard for European football. Ipswich, we were into the last game of the season, actually, and still had a chance of qualifying for the Champions League. So that was pretty special as well. It's hard for me to say, and I wouldn't want to upset either set of supporters. But I had six brilliant, very similar clubs actually. You know, real community based, good supporters, and I'm not going to answer your question. I've sat on the fence enough there.
I think Ross is asking because your Instagram picture is actually with the Ipswich jersey.
I try and change it actually regularly, just to try and keep everyone happy. There's an Ireland jerseys one week, Charlton one the next, Ipswich, and then when I change it, the amount of grief I get, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, you look better in red. You look better in blue. You look better in green. Honestly, it's
what
mad.
about is that from Farnborough Town lads? Is it?
Farnborough Town lads, yeah. Wow. I actually played half a season at Farnborough on loan. From West Ham. That was a good grounding, to be honest. It was non-league football against some ex-players who Graham Roberts used to be at Spurs. He put me out for about 6 weeks, one tackle playing against Enfield. But that was a real good grounding, and I actually really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah. Well, also while you were playing at Ipswich in 1999, you got called up for Ireland. How did that come about?
So I'd made George Burley, the Ipswich manager, aware of the fact that I wanted to play for Ireland or could play for Ireland, and I think he spoke to Mick at the time. Yeah. And Mick then came and watched me play a few times, and I got a phone call at home. When your missus says it's Mick McCarthy on the phone, you're thinking the worst. You think it's one of the lads messing about. Of course it is. Yeah, right. So I went onto the phone. Yeah, one of those. And he said, "That's Mick McCarthy." And then I realised it was Mick McCarthy.
Yeah, very distinct voice.
Very distinct voice. Although he's easy, I think he's easy to do impressions of.
Oh, yeah.
Ian Danter at TalkSport does a brilliant Mick McCarthy. You've got to listen to it. It's
Mick McCarthy.
Yeah, there you are. That's it. Perfect. And asked me if I wanted to play for, and I didn't hesitate. Said absolutely, yeah. He said, "Well, we've got a B international in 3 weeks' time against the League of Ireland 11. I want you to play." Perfect. And that was it, really. I played in that B game. I've read his book since, and he said that I impressed him on the evening, and I was in a lot of squads after that. So it was, good.
Yeah. Who did you make your debut against? Where was it?
Do you not know? Or are you? It was against Macedonia.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. When we drew 1-1, and that was it in terms of the qualifying for 2000. So they equalised after I'd only been on the pitch for about 10-15 minutes, and they equalised with a header from a corner. You might remember, 94th minute or whatever it was. It was like one of the lowest points of my Ireland career, and that was my debut. It's madness, really, isn't it?
Yeah. You don't still have that jersey hanging up, do you?
It's I've got it somewhere. It's in one of the wardrobes. It's not one pride of place anyway now.
Yeah, you've obviously scored a few goals for Ireland as well. Who was your first goal against?
That came against Portugal in qualifying.
Nice.
That was a pretty special moment. I was only probably about my 7th or 8th cap as well, and it was obviously such a crucial goal because we were a goal behind in the game. I'd only come on at half time, and the instruction at half time from Mick was not to leave the back four. Really, he said just sit in front of the back four. You just patrol there and don't really venture forward. And anyway, we went a goal behind about 10 minutes into that second half, and then I picked the ball up, and it just opened up for me. I thought, well, why not have a shot and see what happens? And unfortunately, it found its way into the back of the net. And then Mick was quite stern after the game. He came onto the pitch and he was looking a bit angry and said, "I told you not to leave the back four." And then he had a little smile on his face, and I thought, "Oh, thank God for that." I thought he was going to have a go at me because I'd gone too far forward.
And then we can't talk about without talking about the 2002 World Cup, Matt. 2002 World Cup. What was the atmosphere like in the squad? Obviously, after Roy Keane went home, and can you tell us a bit about the Roy Keane incident where you stood on it?
Look, it was a really sad moment, wasn't it? And one that no one can look back fondly on.
Mm.
The fact that you're losing a player of his quality and ability and character.
Mm.
If you asked every other international team, they could pick one player from our squad, who would they pick? Most of them would have gone, well, we'll have Roy. No, we had some real quality. We had Shane goal, Damien, Robbie. Yeah. But a lot of those teams, the other managers would have gone, we'll have Roy in our team because of what he brings. And so for us to lose that was a big blow. And actually, with regard to what he was saying and the grievances that he had, I think the whole squad agreed. The pitch we turned up to wasn't brilliant. The balls weren't there. The kit wasn't there. All that sort of stuff. I think a lot of us all agreed that he was right to be, upset about that. What you have to remember is that the FAI don't quite have as much money as Man United did at the time, or do now even, and so
never will.
Well, never will. But Roy was used to having the best. At United, we went away for games and he'd get a private jet back from somewhere. Man United have laid on, and we weren't. The FAI weren't going to do that for everyone to go back to their clubs, but Man United were able to do that. So he was used to having the very best. So that was obviously a massive thing for him. What was probably wrong was the fact that him and Mick, I think, had a conversation in private. Mick, I think, had apologised and said it was wrong, it wasn't acceptable. And then I think Roy, obviously doing the article in the paper, sort of slamming the FAI, slamming the players, saying we accept second best and all that sort of stuff was probably the wrong thing to do. In hindsight, I'll say he'd probably agree. I don't know whether he would or not.
In fairness, he's quite stubborn. He's not going to admit when he's wrong.
Well, I mean, yes, we've all got our strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And, so I thought it was probably the wrong thing to do. Mick brought it up in a meeting. It all kicked off clearly, and Roy we didn't see again. Yeah. Dean Kiley sort of did quite well to sort of just soften the mood, because he sort of stood up and said, "Don't worry." He said, "I've played central midfield a few times. If you need someone else to play in there," he said, "It's absolutely fine." So that sort of lightened the mood a little bit after Roy had gone. Look, I think there's
what way did that departure go? Was there like a vote, or did he just go, "That's it, I'm leaving," or what way did it?
No, Roy was off. That was it really. And that 2 weeks was obviously a difficult couple of weeks then. That to the start of the tournament, because there was a lot of pressure then really on us because of what had happened. There was a lot of stories back home. Luckily, we were protected from it really where we were, because we were a long way away from home. Didn't necessarily see all the papers. It's not like now where you've got your phones and you've got instant access to everything. We didn't necessarily get that instant access to what was going on back home. So we weren't really aware of what was going on too much. It wasn't too bad. But there was still a lot of pressure on us going into that first game. And there was also the talk of, which camp were you in? Were you in Mick's camp, Roy's camp, or whatever it might be? And so we needed to get off to a good start. And we didn't play well in that first game, really. In the first half of the game against Cameroon.
Yeah, but you scored the goal, though.
Well, I did, yeah. Half time, because in the build-up to the tournament, Mick had been talking about having no regrets. He'd been saying, that was our big mantra, really, and we had it all pinned up against the wall. No regrets, no regrets, no regrets. And at half time, that was what he said. That's all we've got is regrets, because of how bad we've been in that first half. Second half, we upped the tempo. We got a bit more on the front foot, a bit more attacking, and I just managed to get forward and score. So that was a good moment.
Yeah. Ireland were actually good in that competition and surpassed, I think, a lot of people's expectations. But what really let us down, obviously, was the penalty shootout against Spain, because I actually thought we were the better side in the day. But obviously, what did you make of that game yourself?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I thought we were the better team that day as well, and probably deserved to go through.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just about the lowest moment. Obviously the Macedonia one was bad, but the missing a penalty was pretty low as well. So
well, at least you had the balls to step up and take it.
Well, we there was no sort of designated penalty takers as per se. We'd done penalties the day before in training, and sort of practiced them. And I placed all my penalties, but I'd made my mind up that I wanted to strike the ball. I wanted to blast it, and that's what I was doing in training the day before. And then when it came to it, and we were looking around and who's going to take them, it was a case of who felt confident, really. Where I put my hand up and said, yeah, I felt like I'd had a good tournament. I felt like I'd been playing well. Felt confident to take one. I'd made my mind up I was going to blast it. The walk up, just thinking clean strike down the middle. It was a clean strike, but just too clean, really. I had too much on it, and maybe the adrenaline or whatever it was, and got too much on it. And that walk back was a long, long walk back. That's as low as I've been. In fairness, the lads were brilliant. I can't speak highly. Niall Quinn straight away was the first one to me, I think, when I walked back to the halfway line, arm around me. I actually got taken for the drugs test after the game as well with Robbie Keane. But the team waited a couple of hours for us to obviously provide our specimen, get back on the bus and go back. Then when I was back at the hotel, I just sort of collapsed in my room and really just didn't want to go out. I was in tears and on the phone to my missus, and actually I just wanted the world to just cave in, really. Yeah. And then the door went, and it was Kevin Kilbane, and he'd missed as well, and he sort of came in. We had not a bit of a cry together, but I was like, I could feel myself in tears. But Kev went, listen, we're going out. Everyone's going out. We had a good tournament. Come on. And I said, no, I'm fine. I said, I'm just going to stay here. He said, absolutely not. He said, you're coming out. We're all in it together. No, anyone can miss a penalty. And that was it, really. We had a good night out and ended up back at Michael Flatley's the next morning. So, as you do.
I did not expect that. All dancing in Michael Flatley's house.
Well, yeah. He had the whole top floor of one of the hotels. And there's about 4 or 5 of us ended up back at his apartment. So it was, ended up a decent night.
I was actually getting a bit emotional there, Matt, and then like that just lightened the mood. But,
good.
No, but Matt, that was brilliant. But here, Matt, like obviously, like you've obviously played alongside Roy Keane. He was your partner in crime, you'd almost say, for the Irish team. I remember I met him once, and I was like so intimidated to talk to him. He was right beside Gary Neville. I was like, right, I'll talk to Gary, and then I came back and I was like, I have to talk to Roy, because it was like myself and Ross both sport Man U, and I couldn't let that chance go. But what was it like playing alongside Roy Keane, like the most decorated captain in the Premier League ever?
He's a brilliant player. I mean, absolutely brilliant player. He always had time on the ball. You think about midfield players, it's always helter-skelter, it's rushed. Roy was just almost serene, and no one seemed to be able to get near him somehow at times. If you said what was Roy's greatest strength in terms of his technical ability, or was he the best in the Premier League at maybe long passing, shooting, heading? You might say no, really, to all of those things. Yeah. But you add them all up. What an unbelievable player. I'll tell you what he was the best. I'll tell you what I thought he was the best at in the Premier League was that ability to play a ball 15, 20 yards through a midfield into a striker's feet. He always looked, just the pace that he put his passes, the pace he put on his passes was unbelievable. And he drilled that side foot pass into his front man's feet, the best I've ever seen. And actually, he tested you all the time. In training, he wanted to test you. He wanted to test your touch. In games, he would
in training, would you make sure you're marking him just to get to see how you could compete?
Well, I enjoyed coming up against the best players, really. The challenge of playing against Roy Keane and Vieira and people like that. That it was always the challenge, really, for me. It's what you sort of grew up wanting to be, really, play at the top level and play against the best. So that challenge was always a good one. But in training, even he would test you, though, like your touch and things like that. And one game against Cyprus, we were 4-0 up, and he passed the ball to me like he did to the front man, that pace on the ball, drove it into me. I miscontrolled it. They went on the attack. They had a shot. Shea saved it. And for 2 minutes, he's chasing me around the pitch, having a go at me. I'm saying, Roy, we're 4-0 up. Just relax. It's not. But then that moment, you think, that could have been 1-1 in an important game where you give the ball away, they go and score, you lose it 2-1. And that winning mentality and that drive was so fierce that he dragged you along with him, if that makes sense. You didn't want to. You said you're intimidated by him. You didn't want to let him down. You thought, if I make a mistake, he's going to have a go at me. He's going to go mad. And so you made sure that the next time you made sure you got hold of that ball and you were really precise in your touch, and because he was so demanding. But that's I mean, in a good way, because he wanted to win. And I'm competitive. I hate losing, whatever it is. Even now with the kids, I hate it. If I get beat, I'm grumpy. I hate it. But Roy, Christ, I mean, if he lost at anything, wow, it'd be the end of the world, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Just before we wrap things up as well, Matt, who's the best player you ever played against for Ireland, and who's the best player you ever played against in the Premier League?
I mean, I always say Roy was a great challenge. That midfield actually for United generally. Paul Scholes was some player as well. Him and Scholes at centre midfield. I mean,
you're in for a rough day at the office.
Well, Beckham on the right, Giggs on the left, and Scholes and Keane in midfield. Scholes was so difficult to get close to as well. And he ghosted off you as well. You know, you talk about Frank Lampard, the way he got into the box and got himself goals. Scholes was the same, really. You think you've got him, and the next minute, because he didn't really, he'd stand around, and you think, it's fine. He's doing his own little bit, and then all of a sudden he's gone. You think, Christ. And him and Roy just seemed to have time in that midfield, so they were always difficult to play against. I'm trying to think for Ireland, we played against Brazil. I mean, we had some unbelievable games. Germany. There was some really top players. I mean, I did my thing the other day on Twitter, my greatest 11 that I played against, and some of the names, honestly, I was just looking through it. I mean, even Italy as well. I think we played Italy and Cannavaro and people like that. Seedorf. Honestly, that Dutch team that we beat at Lansdowne when Jason scored. I mean, they had some unbelievable players that day as well. So very.
He always talk about that goal, doesn't he, McAteer?
That's all he's got to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, actually,
he's brilliant, Jason. He's brilliant. He's brilliant, Jason. I absolutely love him. He's such a character. Played up to it. He's not as dopey as he likes to make out. He plays up to that Trigger nickname at times. But he's a great character and good infectious personality to have around.
And I just want to know about one other person, Mark Kinsella. He's not actually that much talked about, I don't think. You actually replaced him at Charlton as well. But when Roy Keane left, did you and Mark have a moment where you're like, right, I guess it's us so, instead of being one or the other?
Well, maybe. I don't know, really. I mean, Mark and I actually got on really well anyway. We'd known each other a few years. We'd come up against each other in playoffs as well, Charlton and Ipswich. He'd been at Colchester, which is where I lived as well, when I moved to Ipswich. So I knew his father-in-law in Colchester anyway, so I knew Mark quite well, and we got on well off the field. So and I think again complemented each other on the pitch as well, because he was a fierce competitor. He was someone that allowed me to make runs forward at times as well, because Mark definitely was more, I would say, more of a defensive midfielder. I mean, he scored a fair few goals in his career as well, but he was someone that would probably just, maybe sit a little bit more than I wanted to do. I wanted to get forward and get into the box at times. So again, I think we complemented each other, but we got on with each other as well.
Yeah, Mark. Sorry, Matt. The last thing as well. What is your most prized jersey that you have? If you had to get rid of every other one, what would be the one that you keep?
Well, the FAI actually asked me to do that, and there's probably a video on the FAI website that's going to come out in a couple of days. But so I'm going to preempt this, but the jersey from the Cameroon game is pretty poignant. Obviously, because it was my first ever time at a World Cup, first game, scored in the game, but I swapped shirts with Mark Vivian Foe, and I've got the two shirts side by side in the frame. So that's something that will that's a nice shirt to have, and obviously more poignant because of the fact that sadly he's no longer with us, and he was such a good player as well. So the fact that I was able to swap shirts with him, I've got the two shirts next to each other, is quite a nice moment.
Yeah, and we have to bring it full circle now. We have to go back to Ross's question at the very beginning of the show.
Yeah, who would you bring on? Who'd be our fourth person?
Do you know, McAteer would be a great laugh. Honestly, he really would. He'd keep you entertained. I mean, honestly, he'd come out with stuff that you wouldn't imagine anyone could come out with, to be honest. But as I say, I think he does play up to it a little bit. Yeah, let's bring Jason. I mean, now I've sort of talked him up how funny he's going to be. Well, let's bring Jason, eh?
All right. So what time are we having the beers on Saturday? So You can ring Macca.
If the weather, if the weather's nice, I'm going to do a barbecue as well. So if I can send you a virtual sausage and burger as well, if you like.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. What else do you like on your barbecue?
Oh, let me see now. Maybe a few grilled tomatoes, bit of shrimp, bit of prawns on there.
Steak?
Oh yeah, a bit of steak will go down lovely, yeah. Nice. Barry?
So I'll probably do that about 4 or 5 o'clock with a couple of beers, maybe. How about that?
No worries. Sounds good. Barry, you bring the salads.
Yeah, Matt, that sounds that sounds perfect, Matt. We'll make sure to wish you happy birthday as well.
Cheers.
Okay, so first of all, Matt, thanks a million for coming on the show. You actually are an absolute legend for doing this as well. Ross, you have anything else to say before we wrap it up?
No, Matt, just thanks for coming on. I'll never forget you scoring against Cameroon. It was one of the highlights because I was actually in Spain for at the time, and I was like, this is incredible. I go, Ireland are brilliant.
Listen, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Everyone that's watching, keep safe, keep well. It won't be long. Football will be back.
Yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, and as always, stay energized.
Stay energized.